Alright, buckle up, this debate dives straight into one of the most controversial comparisons you'll ever hear. Abortion versus the Holocaust. On one side you've got an argument rooted in numbers and moral worth. On the other, a defense that the Holocaust was uniquely evil because of its intent to annihilate an entire people. This isn't just an academic back and forth, it's a clash of moral frameworks, history and philosophy colliding head-on. Pay attention, because within minutes the contradictions and stakes in this debate explode wide open.
I wanted to respond to kind of a specific comment you made. I hope you'll be open to that. I do remember, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what university you did say this specifically at, but you did state that you believe that the Holocaust was not as bad as abortion. So in other words, you believe that abortion is worse than the Holocaust.
So they're both distinct evils,
of course,
with some similarities. The Holocaust in some ways was far more evil,
okay,
but as far as magnitude, the abortion crime is more evil. And I can explain more if you'd like.
Okay, sure. So I did do some research. It is found that 1973 Roe v. Wade was ratified, correct? And so one thing that you did fail to mention was that specifically numbers are just larger because abortion has been going on for a longer amount of time. If the mass genocide, right, that the Holocaust would have continued, it was about 6 million killed per year. That would have progressed to 12 million. That would have progressed to 18 million. But it was ended because, again, it's a totalitarian form of mass genocide. And so I wanted to ask you, when you look at the 93% of women who do get abortions, it's 58,590,000 that get abortions the first trimester, correct? And there is suggestive data that states that 12 weeks, of gestation, there is significant data that has said that pain receptors may not have yet been developed. And so that would mean that outside of the women who received abortions first trimester, it would be 88,200 per year after the first trimester that the babies are likely experiencing pain. I will admit to that. However, I am pretty sure that every single person in the Holocaust, which would have been 2 million per year, as far as the people who could feel pain, did feel that pain. And so I would like to ask you, actually I think I would just like to tell you, I think that 2 million actual people, kids, grown people, people who were starved, worked to death, I think that is more significant than the 88,200 life forms, if you will. Because again, 58,590,000 of them are probably not feeling any pain.
Okay, yeah, but a human life is a human life, regardless of how advanced it is or whether it can feel pain. It still has moral worth. Right,
but I found it interesting. You said it's worse, so I think that
so it's worse in numbers.
Okay.
The Holocaust was worse for two other different reasons.
Sure, go ahead.
It actually eliminated such a big portion of Jewish population.
Absolutely.
Nearly half of all living Jews were basically vaporized. And secondly, there was an intent and an evil of trying to eradicate an entire religious people.
Yeah.
That is not unparalleled, but we've only seen that happen 4 or 5 times in history. But just to reiterate the point, maybe you could tell me, a 4-week-old baby who may or may not feel pain. Let me take your argument and say the 4-week-old baby cannot feel pain.
A 4-week-old baby that's outside of the womb or in the utero.
In utero.
Okay, understood.
So what is the moral difference of that 4-week-old baby versus you?
Versus me?
Yeah, why do you matter more than that 4-week-old baby?
Because I have past experience, I also have future experiences. That baby, while it has future experiences, nope, shut up, nope, you are incorrect. That baby does not have any past experiences, and therefore I believe that, yeah, I've probably affected and impacted more people in both a positive and a negative way than that 4-week-old uterus has. I'm sorry, not uterus, embryo.
Yeah, so just to make sure I'm clear,
yeah,
that your moral worldview is that people gain more value the older they get?
Not necessarily the older they get. I would say that people gain more value.
Well, no, you said that based on what they've done. So, like an 82-year-old has more moral value than an 8-year-old. In fact, usually,
no, because it depends.
Just to interrupt, the West actually was built on the opposite idea that we sacrifice the old for the young. But during COVID, we sacrificed the young for the old, and we actually inverted it. It used to be that the grandparents would fall on the sword so that kids could live longer lives. So I'm just trying to understand, and from where do you get that moral worldview? Why do you believe that?
Well, I wouldn't even say that what I'm arguing is that it's based off of how many people you know. What I'm saying is realistically, if you are walking around, if you are walking around, right, and you have a 4-week-old uterus, I'm so sorry, I keep saying uterus.
A
I mean
baby in
embryo.
utero.
Or embryo, okay, in your stomach. And then you have, just take a 4-year-old kid, all right? There are, number one, there are more people who most likely know that 4-year-old kid. That 4-year-old kid has the ability to understand fear, the fact that its life is in danger, and so therefore there's probably more reason, right, to not terminate the life of that 4-year-old rather than the life of the 4-week-old.
So there's so much wrong with that argument. Okay. So under that belief system,
sure.
If by government decree they said let's eliminate the Down syndrome kids.
Do Down syndrome people still have the ability to feel pain, recognize fear,
Some,
recognize
but
sadness?
But it's highly diminished. But just this is not a hypothetical, actually.
Okay.
It's actually you must get an abortion in Iceland if you have a Down syndrome baby. You must.
Yeah, that's really terrible.
Okay, we agree.
Yeah.
Right, but why is it terrible? The abortion, it doesn't matter that much, right? It's just like a clump of cells. Like, why not just...
If it is going to directly impact either the mother's life or the baby's life, then yes, I do think that abortion is an important issue. I don't think the government should ever be able...
And here's where the debate takes a shocking turn. The question is posed, should a mother be allowed to abort a baby simply because it's the wrong gender? The response, a yes. That moment right there sends the room into stunned silence. Because what's being argued sounds dangerously close to eugenics. The speaker even acknowledges how ethically problematic it is, but brushes it off as part of a modern society. Here's the critical point. When freedom of choice crosses into genetic customization, does that undermine the very foundation of equality? What do you think was this the moment the argument collapsed?
To come in and say, hey, you're required to have an abortion. In fact, the whole slogan for the pro-choice movement is your body, your choice. And I know you're going to disagree with that, but that is the whole point. So what it's saying is it's not left up to the government to decide if they should or shouldn't get an abortion. In Iceland, yeah, that's a problem because it's entirely left up to the government. But that's an issue.
Let me take it to another extreme if that's okay.
Sure.
Because this is full freedom, right? So you're saying, hey, my body, my choice.
I'm actually saying for the first trimester. After that,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Let's just say this is a different moral argument that I'm interested to have you play around with.
Okay.
Should it be legal if a mom finds out she's having a girl,
okay,
but she wants a boy? Should she be able to abort that 3-week-old?
Yes.
Think about it. Think about what you just said. Think about what you just said.
Why?
Can that child directly survive outside her body?
Well, eventually, yes. I mean, again, so we talk about stages of development. What is the first step of human development?
I mean, obviously, it's whenever the two pieces of DNA, the
egg and the sperm
correct,
meet,
yes,
right?
and then they collaborate.
So
and
therefore,
there you go.
if human development begins at fertilization, conception,
sure.
So then shouldn't the human be protected at conception?
Well, I don't even think it's going to be protected if the baby is going to be born to a mother who's like, well, dang it, my kid's not a girl, it's a boy, or vice versa. Then I don't even think they should be born to that parent in the first place. So,
but just to understand, but so what you are arguing for is eugenics. Just so we are clear, it is not just illegal. It is grotesquely illegal what you are talking about, which is sex-selective abortion, basically where you get a DNA result at 3 weeks. And you could be like, nope, not the hair color I like, terminate it. I wanted a boy. So basically, your view of pregnancy is no different than customizing a Ford Explorer.
no, my whole point, again,
No,
is
you got to emphasize on it. Your view is that
the
baby, if all of a sudden you get a blood test that you don't like, that it's, by the way, you could tell a lot of your baby's DNA test now. How tall it's going to be, its average IQ, brown eyes, green eyes, blue eyes, whether it's going to be likely overweight, obese, whether or not it's going to be a boy or a girl. So if you get anything that you don't like, you say, my body, my choice, get it out of the shopping cart.
Well, yeah, and to be honest, it's very ethically problematic, yeah. But if we have advanced to a society where that can happen, number one,
yes, no,
we're
I mean,
already
you get
we're
blood
already
tests.
in pretty big trouble if we can literally say, okay, the baby's gonna have blue eyes, green eyes.
No, it's not. We're already there. We're there. So it's just so you understand. It's
I mean, you can you can look at a Punnett table, but it's not actually going to be defined.
No, it's very defined. You could get a 3-week-old blood test, and you could tell right around 3 to 6 weeks almost everything with a very, very high predictive correlation of how your kid is going to operate, grow. Now, of course, there are some issues with it, but the sex is highly, highly accurate. It's 90. It's you take the urine of the mom within 48 hours, you could tell. So, what I want to make sure we're clear. You came here asking about the Holocaust. I'm going to complete the full circle. What you just talked about, sex-selective abortion, is Nazi eugenics philosophy, which is that we will eliminate those that we don't want.
Interesting. You're exactly right. You did get me on that one. Yeah, because I'm not gonna like sit up here and pretend that you got me on that one. No, realistically, like if we're really gonna full circle and I'm gonna sit here and think about it, no, you shouldn't be able to kill your baby just because you don't like the gender or whatever.
Fair enough.
Listen, and I apologize for taking it to that extent.
No, it's not your extent.
But hold on.
I want to offer you grace. Thank
can
you for saying that,
You're
and I
welcome.
appreciate
But-
that.
Okay. But I want to say, as far as like if we are balancing the numbers, I think that the amount of lives that were terminated I think they are more significant as far as the Holocaust, because every single person did absolutely have the ability to feel pain than they were whenever it was the 58 million.
Fair
who were
enough. So
terminated
here's our
or
view,
was-
and we'll close with this.
Yes, absolutely.
Is that if there is a 3-year-old in the audience that has very few friends and
Yeah.
might be living on some homestead, or a 30-year-old that's very connected and very wealthy, in the moral worldview economy that we have,
Yeah.
no moral difference. If there's a, if
because they're like directly living like outside of their mother's womb, whereas if you have a
let me go.
fetus, it's
Let me go a step
sort of
further.
parasite. Okay,
If
sure.
there is a 3-week-old in
Yeah.
utero,
I mean,
or
it's still leeching off of the mother's resources, so I'm not sure entirely how much
So-
of its own being it is.
well, again, so you leech for the first 3 years of life. I have a 10-month-old. He doesn't hunt and gather. He doesn't
Right,
go work.
but he's not directly attached to your, I assume, to your wife's
Well,
to your wife's body.
In order for
If-
his survival, he has to be directly attached to something. Somebody has to
Sure.
give the baby breast milk formula, or
okay, formula, yeah, but can
or
it?
something.
Okay, so here's your wife, here's the baby. Can the baby just be apart from your wife and exist
At,
like that?
at 22 weeks, yes. So for 22
Okay,
weeks,
so
there
again,
is an
that's outside of the first
there's an
trimester, so-
umbilical cord. So what you say leech, I say give. The mom gives life to the baby.
Yeah,
to
I
the
mean, I'm
4-week-old.
not arguing outside of first
And,
trimester,
and
so
what
I
we
agree
say,
with you there.
and not even a religious standpoint, because the religious is easy. Just from a moral standpoint, we were all given life by a mom who gave us nutrients through an umbilical cord, and we should give that back. That is just the moral cycle of life, right? Which is that which is given, that which is much expected. And so, again, human development, irrefutably, this even a pro-abort will say this. Human development has a starting point.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yes, we agree. And it's conception. And we can use all these different words. We can use fetus, we can use embryo, we can use little one, whatever.
Sure.
But it's all still a human being. It doesn't go from rhinoceros to human being at like 10 weeks. It doesn't go from crocodile to human being. It's
Right.
all human development. Therefore, using reason that we all have, if it's human development and it is a human being, human rights. The first of all human rights is the protection of life.
Interesting. But okay, so do you agree that like let's say you go into a doctor's office, you have a 10-year-old and then you have a 22-year-old. The 22-year-old is going to be allowed to submit to more testing as long without parental consent than that 10-year-old or whoever I said was. So I don't know. I think honestly it's again, and I don't know, like
You have a lot of thinking to do about this, and that's okay. Because and this is not your fault, the pro-abortion worldview will collapse if you remove feelings and you remove hyper-emotionality. There is no defense using agreed-upon Western reason, which you believe in, and Western morality, which is we don't kill people smaller than us. We do not eradicate those that are, just because they don't have as much money or as much worth. We believe in universal human equality, which of course you believe in, right? Universal human equality is like the overarching big Western ideal, by the way, it's in our Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. If you believe in universal human equality, there is no room for abortion in that society. It does not exist.
well, I mean, okay, we can
No,
say
I'm just
that,
saying,
but
it's fine.
then-
You have a lot to think about
But
with
then
that.
we're gonna. I mean, I think you do too. But okay.
I'm happy
listen,
to. No, it's fine. I mean, I've thought about this my whole life. So
Yeah. all
thank
right,
you
well,
for your
I'm
time.
thinking myself. Listen,
Yeah.
I appreciate you, Charlie. Again, I want to apologize about what I said earlier about
It's fine.
about
When,
that comment.
when we cut
because
the video,
it's-
we'll put your second answer as well as your first one. We'll be fair to that. Okay? Thank you very
Sure
much.
you will. All right.
No, I will. I'll just be honest. Thank you.
So, after all the fiery exchanges, what are we left with? On one side, the insistence that universal human equality, our most basic Western ideal, leaves no moral space for abortion. On the other, the acknowledgement that choice, circumstance, and development complicate that principle. This wasn't just a debate about numbers or medical timelines. It was about how we define human value and who gets to decide. The conversation ends with both sides admitting they've got more to think about. And now it's your turn. Who do you think won this debate? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget, like, share, and subscribe for more explosive breakdowns like this one.